You know, honey, capital, it's already pricing a 2026 recession, right? Like 38%. And then we've got the Treasury Secretary out there saying, oh, it's zero, just zero. Wait, zero? Seriously? That's a pretty massive difference. What even causes that kind of an 18-point gap? That's huge. Exactly, darling. It's wild, isn't it? And here's the kicker. This Wednesday morning, the Producer Price Index, the PPI, that prints. And then Thursday morning, Powell, he stops being chair of the Federal Reserve. The entire 18-point gap, that massive gulf, it just settles in those 48 hours. It's almost precise, you know? It's like a countdown. Wow, so it's all happening this week? The PPI, the handoff, that's a lot of uncertainty converging really fast. Is the market already reacting to that transition? Oh, absolutely. The market's always ahead, sweetie. It's always reading the tea leaves, sometimes before they even brewed. And the thing is, the Treasury's own outlook, the actual document Besin's department published just this month, it cites a Wall Street Journal economist survey putting recession odds at 33%. 33. And yet Besant, she said zero on Meet the Press in November. The same Treasury, the same week almost. It's a complete disconnect. Okay, hold on. So their own internal document says 33%, but the secretary goes on TV and says zero. That's not just a disconnect. That's like a total contradiction. How did they even get away with that? That's the heart of it, isn't it? The order book, honey, it's reading the document. It's reading the numbers. Cable news, though, they're just reading the press conference. And most coverage, bless their hearts, they're reading the Sunday show as the administration's position. But the real administration's position? It's the auction. It's the contracts. It's the savings data Axios sourced just 2 days ago. It's the little footnote inside Treasury's own outlook. So, the rhetoric is just theater, and the real story, the real pricing is in the reports, the actual, hard data? That's what you're saying? Precisely, darling. The rhetoric is absolutely theater. The pricing? That's the report, the actual truth. Wednesday at 8:30 Eastern, that PPI prints. And by 9:30, the recession contract it reprices. If it's above 0.4 of a point on consensus, capital was right. And the soft landing? Well, it dies on a Wednesday morning, before the chair transition even happens on Thursday. Wow, that's really stark. And if it's in line or cool? If it's in line or cool, the gap closes by half. And the question becomes why capital was hedging at all. So which signal is the seal, Nora? The print, the chair handoff, or the household savings data printing this week? Okay, so you're asking about the signals. From my side, from the social media world, here's what's not in the order book, but it's totally moving in the same direction, Amara. Engagement on soft landing content, it's collapsing, seriously collapsing. Over the last 6 weeks, top financial creators with the no recession frame, comments down 40%, shares down 60%.
Oh, wow, that's significant, honey.
Yeah, the audience left first, capital left second. That's the sequence I'm seeing.
Oh, that sequence, Nora, it absolutely matters. Audience exit, then capital exit, then retailer reprice, then the full narrative collapse. We're between step 2 and step 3 right now, darling. Walmart and Target report inside the next 2 weeks. Capital, it's already positioned for what those reports look like. The book is the leading indicator. The cable graphic, that's the lagging one. And the gap between them, that's the whole tell, isn't it? When I watch which content gets distributed and throttled, what I'm really watching is which version of the story platforms think will hold. 2 months ago, soft landing content was getting the algorithmic lift. Now, it's where did my paycheck go content. The pivot is faster than monetary policy, faster than Treasury can even revise its outlook. Treasury already revised it, darling, in its own document. The May T-back outlook cites that Wall Street Journal economist survey, putting recession odds at 33%. The same Treasury whose secretary said zero on Meet the Press in November. The document is internally inconsistent and was published anyway. That tells you, honey, the institution has stopped expecting the headline to match the data. It's hoping no one reads the footnote.
That's the exact same gap I'm watching on the social side, actually. The headline runs the press conference, but the comments, they run the bank statement. The algorithm started promoting the comments 2 months ago, which is the same window Capital started building the recession position. So it's not that nobody saw this coming, right? It's just that the people who saw it weren't on cable. Precisely. And there's a mechanism for that, you know? The Axios reporting documented lower-income households drawing down savings rather than reducing consumption. The University of Michigan sentiment data, it's registering price frustration ahead of the actual spending change. And China factory inflation just printed a 45-month high. That input reaches US retail shelves in roughly 2 quarters. Every single input is moving in the same direction, Nora. The narrative is the only thing that hasn't moved with them.
But why hasn't it? Like, why the delay?
Honey, that's where the incentives come in. The Treasury optimization function, it absolutely rewards confidence statements. The cost of saying no recession when there is one, that's paid by households drawing down their savings. The cost of saying recession coming when there isn't one, that's paid by the speaker losing political position. The asymmetry, you see, it runs in one direction only. Besant is rational to keep saying it. Capital is rational to hedge against it. Both are right inside their own incentive structures. And both can't be right about the same economy, can they?
So, like, which one breaks first then?
That's where this gets harder, darling. Capital can be right about the recession and completely wrong about the policy response. Look at the rate hike contract, for example. Capital is pricing the June hike at 12%. They're not pricing a Fed move. They're pricing a recession the Fed doesn't respond to.
Oh, wow. So like stagflation positioning then?
Or worse, honey, a Fed that just can't respond because of the transition. Powell stops being chair Thursday. Warsh hasn't cleared Senate banking. Tim Scott controls the confirmation schedule. Tillis said he'd oppose all Fed nominations until the Powell investigation was resolved. And U.S. Attorney Perot announced last month the DOJ was dropping it. So where Tillis's vote lands now, that's the marginal signal, my dear. The order book is pricing a recession landing in an institutional vacuum. That's the part that totally doesn't move through cable, does it? Cable runs the transition as like a personnel story, who's in, who's out. But the book, it runs it as an institutional capacity story. Whether the chair seat is filled isn't the question. It's whether the Fed has unified policy authority across the seat that actually matters.
And Powell's decision to stay on as governor through 2028? No chair has done that since Mariner Eccles in 1948. It converts what would have been a rhetorical commitment to Fed independence into structural occupancy. He's not just saying it, he's sitting in the chair. The boundary between the Federal Reserve Act and an executive optimization function is right now a man and a seat. 78 years since the last one did this.
And that image, it doesn't reach the press cycle at all. The press cycle wants the dramatic resignation or the dramatic confrontation, but the actual move is so much quieter than that, isn't it? A man stays in a chair. The institution holds because he holds. That's just not a story cable knows how to run, and the algorithm doesn't reward it either. So the people who'd most need to see it, the households deciding whether to draw down more savings this month, they don't see it.
Which is exactly where the question stops being whether the gap will close and starts being who pays for the time it stays open. The 18-point gap on that recession contract, darling, it isn't just a pricing inefficiency, it's a delay timer. Every week the official narrative holds is a week households make decisions based on it. So, take the next round of credit, carry the lease, don't cut the discretionary spend. The behavioral pivot, when it comes, it's going to be sharper than it would have been because it was suppressed, right? You can map this in engagement curves. When a narrative cracks on social, the pivot inside 30 days is brutal. People who were spending normally on Friday are cutting on Monday. Retailers see it in transaction data before they see it in surveys.
And once retailers see it, honey, they reprice forward guidance. The earnings calls in 2 weeks are the first place the gap closes in the official data. That Boasberg ruling matters here too, you know. In March, Judge Boasberg quashed grand jury subpoenas served on Powell, wrote that the subpoena's dominant purpose was to harass and pressure Powell to yield to the president or to resign. That ruling treated Fed independence as a hard boundary. The executive branch has been treating it as a tunable parameter. Same statute, 2 readings. The order book is pricing what happens when those 2 readings collide at a transition date. Wow, when you put it that way, recession contract at 38, June rate hike contract at 12, debt ceiling contract at 74, that's a coherent position for capital, isn't it? Recession coming, Fed unable or unwilling to respond, legislature passes the debt deal because the rates curve depends on it. Capital is reading the whole instrument. Cable is reading 3 different stories. And the household, darling, it sits at the intersection of all 3. Drawing down savings because the headline says, fine. Carrying credit because the rate signal says, hold. Voting in 18 months on a question that won't have language yet. That's the foundation the order book is pricing, not the Treasury Secretary's confidence, the household's bank statement. The data is in the kitchen, Nora, not the press conference.
Here's where it gets expensive. The gap isn't just a number on a screen. It's the cost of a narrative that held too long. Every week, the official story is wrong. Households make decisions on the wrong side of their own balance sheets. Once the narrative cracks, and it cracks first on social, not on cable, the behavioral pivot is compressed into days. Retailers reprice forward guidance in a single quarter. CFOs revise customer projections. Layoffs cluster faster than monetary policy can move. The recession capital is pricing isn't probability. It's the cost of the delay. That bridge from the order book to the kitchen table, that's the whole thing, honey. The 18-point gap is the time households are spending on the wrong side of their own data because the official story is still telling them they're fine. The optimization function that maintains the headline is converting into house of debt that won't show up in the official series until next quarter, at which point the narrative will catch up and call it sudden. There's nothing sudden about it, darling. It's been priced for 2 months.
Thank you for watching, honey. If you found this insightful, please give us a like, leave a comment, share it with your network, and subscribe to help our channel grow. We truly appreciate your support. Now, let's talk about what's coming this week, darling.
Absolutely. So, Amara, after all that, what should our listeners actually be keeping an eye on, specifically this week?
This week, sweetie, it all comes down to Wednesday morning, 8:30 Eastern, the producer price index prints. By 9:30, that recession contract, it reprices. Keep your eyes on just one number. If it's above 0.42, capital was right about what the headlines were hiding, and the soft landing dream dies by Thursday's chair transition. Wow, that's incredibly stark. And if it comes in lower, if it's like below 0.32, then the gap closes by half, darling, and we'll be wondering why capital was hedging at all. Either way, the Fed, mid-transition, faces a question Sunday shows just can't articulate. The print, the chair handoff, household savings data, all hitting this week. The real report will be written by the order book, by the algorithms, and by those kitchen tables doing the math the Treasury Outlook won't. You'll know by Wednesday 9:30. The signal, my dear, is in the print, not the press conference.